Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepless Scientist, a quiet place in the cosmos where your thoughts can unwind and knowledge becomes a soft lullaby for the night. Tonight, our journey will take us far beyond the familiar constellations, past the gentle glow of the Milky Way, and into something larger than any one galaxy can contain. We're going to explore the cosmic web, a vast network of filaments and voids stretching across the entire observable universe. But more than that, we will be asking a question so large and yet so simple that it might follow you into your dreams. Could the universe itself in some way be alive? Before you settle into this exploration, I'd like to invite you, if you feel comfortable, to take a moment and breathe. Maybe dim the lights, maybe let the quiet hum of a fan or the rustle of the night outside accompany you. And if you enjoy these gentle journeys, I'd be ever so grateful if you consider liking this video or subscribing to the channel. It helps more wandering minds find their way here. And if you're still awake later, let me know in the comments. Where are you listening from, and what time is it for you right now? It's always a little magical to imagine this invisible gathering of listeners, scattered across continents, yet connected in this quiet moment. You might picture the universe as scattered stars like lights hung in the darkness, but if you could step back, far, far back beyond any telescope or even imagination, you would see something unexpected. Galaxies do not float in isolation. They are strung together in delicate chains, clustered at the crossings of immense filaments, leaving behind enormous gaps of almost nothing at all. It is as if the universe were woven into a fabric, threads of matter, knots of light, and great empty spaces that define the shape of everything. This is the cosmic web, invisible to our eyes yet holding nearly all that exists. Imagine a spider's web stretched through the night air. In the daylight it is nearly invisible, but when the morning dew settles on its threads, it suddenly reveals itself, glittering, delicate yet strong enough to hold the spider's world together. The cosmic web is like that, except the dewdrops are galaxies, the threads are made of dark matter, and the empty spaces between are larger than anything we can truly comprehend. If you could hold a map of the universe in your hands, it would not look like stars scattered on black velvet. It would look more like lace, or foam, or perhaps the branching veins in a leaf magnified to cosmic scale. Long tendrils of light stretch for hundreds of millions of light years. Great clusters of galaxies gather where threads meet. And in between, like the blank spaces of parchment, lie vast voids, regions so empty that if our galaxy were placed inside one, we might never have guessed that any others existed at all. But let's not rush. Let's linger with this image. A tapestry woven across the heavens. Some threads thick with light, others nearly invisible, each one an artery through which the story of the universe has flowed for billions of years. And here we are, tiny beings on one quiet spiral arm of one galaxy, nestled in a corner of this immeasurable web. What does it mean to be part of such a structure? To live in a universe that is not just scattered, but connected? It is tempting to stop here and marvel, and that's a fine place to linger. Yet the question returns, softly persistent, like a background hum. Could something this vast, this organized, this intricate, be alive in some way? Alive is a difficult word. When you hold a plant in your hand, when you see your own chest rise and fall with breath, life feels obvious. But stretch the scale to the stars and the question becomes slippery. Is life only cells, only DNA, only small things that replicate? Or could there be a kind of life in patterns, in networks, in the quiet self-organization of matter on the largest stage of all? Astronomers, of course, usually describe the cosmic web in terms of physics. They speak of dark matter shaping the scaffolding, of galaxies forming where filaments are dense, of voids expanding like bubbles in bread dough as the universe rises. These words are precise, but they do not quite capture how it feels to imagine such a structure. And perhaps feeling matters here just as much as measuring. Think of the veins that branch through every leaf. They carry water, nutrients, and energy, allowing each cell to live. The cosmic web, too, carries hydrogen gas along its filaments, feeding galaxies, letting them grow new stars. Think of mycelium, the network of fungal threads beneath a forest floor. It links trees together, passing signals and nourishment unseen. The cosmic web is not so different. Threads and knots flow and exchange. When we imagine it this way, we begin to sense that the line between physics and biology might be thinner than we thought. It may help to picture this another way. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a vast dark ocean at night. You cannot see far, but you notice pinpricks of light, lanterns on distant boats. They seem scattered, each alone. But then, a faint glow reveals thin ropes connecting them, lines that stretch across the water. Suddenly, the boats are not isolated at all. They are part of a net, each knot connected to others, each line stretching into the dark. That is how astronomers, peering deeper with their surveys and telescopes, began to realize the galaxies are not islands, but strands in a cosmic net. And just like that net, the cosmic web raises quiet questions. If everything is connected, does something pass between the knots? Not just matter, not just light, but something more subtle, something that hints at awareness. We do not know. We may never know. Yet it is in the asking that wonder lives. So as you lie there, perhaps already drifting a little, hold this image gently in your mind. The universe not empty but woven, not scattered but patterned, a living tapestry of light and darkness, of presence and absence, and you, a single thread among them, part of the weave, never alone in the vast night. The trouble with the cosmic web is that it does not announce itself. You cannot walk outside on a clear night, look up, and see its threads stretching across the heavens. The stars we see are dazzling, but they are only the tiniest pinpricks of light, like glitter sprinkled on the surface of a far deeper pattern. The web itself is built from something darker, quieter, and almost entirely invisible: dark matter. Dark matter is one of those phrases that sounds dramatic, even ominous, but in truth it is simply the name we give to what we cannot see. Astronomers realized long ago that galaxies spin too fast for their visible stars to hold together. Something else must be there, silently pulling, providing the extra gravity needed to keep them from flying apart. That something became dark matter. It neither shines nor reflects. It does not flicker with starlight. It is transparent to our eyes and telescopes, yet it outweighs all the familiar matter, stars, planets, you and me, by about 5-1. If dark matter did not exist, galaxies would unravel. If it were not spread through the universe, the cosmic web would never have formed. It is the scaffolding behind the walls of a house, the hidden framework on which the entire cosmic architecture rests. You cannot admire the beams and supports while standing in a room, but without them, the walls would collapse. Imagine, if you will, looking through a fogged-up window. The patterns you see are faint streaks, not the clear image behind them, but the streaks shape what little you can glimpse. In much the same way, astronomers do not see dark matter directly, but they see the way light bends around it. This effect, known as gravitational lensing, is like watching the world through a wine glass. Lines bend, images distort, but the distortion itself reveals the glass. With immense patience and careful measurements, astronomers piece together these distortions and draw maps of dark matter. Bit by bit, the invisible becomes outlined, like tracing the faint impression of ink left behind on a page. And when those maps are stitched together, they reveal the filaments. Not random, not scattered, but strung like cords across the night. These filaments are not thin like hair, but swollen rivers of matter stretching for hundreds of millions of light years. Where several filaments meet, the intersections form nodes. knots of galaxies, the brightest cities of the universe. Between them are voids, vast and nearly empty, as though someone pressed giant bubbles into the dough of creation and let them swell. It is difficult to imagine such scales. If one galaxy were the size of a grain of rice, then a filament could stretch for thousands of kilometers. A single void could swallow whole clusters of galaxies and still appear hollow. Yet despite the enormity, the structure is fragile and delicate, like frost spreading across a window pane, thin and laced with branching veins. Let's pause here for a gentler picture. Imagine holding a seashell, one of those with fine ridges radiating outward in spirals. At first glance, it seems like decoration, a pretty accident. But then you notice the ridges guide water as it flows, reinforcing the shell's strength. The cosmic web is like that. Beautiful, yes, but also functional. Its filaments guide rivers of gas, its nodes anchor galaxies, its voids allow the fabric to stretch without tearing. The pattern is not just art, it is structure. Astronomers often compare the web to lacework, foam or sponges. A soap bubble cluster, with its delicate walls and wide gaps, looks strikingly similar to computer simulations of the universe. This is not coincidence. The physics of how matter spreads, balances and pulls itself together creates the same sorts of patterns at many scales, whether in foam on your dishwater or in galaxies a billion light-years away. The universe seems to favour certain designs, as though it were a patient artist repeating familiar strokes. Still, it is one thing to run a simulation, and quite another to see the pattern with real eyes. For decades, the cosmic web remained mostly a prediction, something inferred but not directly witnessed. Then, in recent years, with powerful telescopes and careful techniques, astronomers began to detect the faint glow of hydrogen gas streaming along filaments. They saw galaxies clustered along those threads just as the models foretold. The invisible was becoming visible. It was as if we had spent centuries listening to faint music through a wall, and suddenly the door cracked open, letting us glimpse the orchestra inside. And in that moment, the universe became both larger and more intimate. Larger because the scale of these structures dwarfs everything we know. Intimate because suddenly our own galaxy, the Milky Way, was not an isolated island. It was a strand, part of a thread, connected to countless others in an immense loom of space and time. There is a comfort in this. We live in a culture that often emphasizes isolation, our individuality, our separateness. Yet at the largest scale imaginable, we are woven into connection. Galaxies are not lonely wanderers, but participants in a grand, silent dance. Each cluster, each filament, each void is part of a whole. And though the web is silent, without pulse or breath, it has a shape that feels almost organic, almost alive. So as you rest here, let your thoughts drift with that image. Imagine the night sky not as dots scattered across blackness, but as threads stretched taut, luminous with hidden matter. Imagine yourself as a passenger, not just in one galaxy, but inside the fabric itself. The stars above you, the voids between, the filaments spanning beyond comprehension. Together they form the quiet architecture of all that is. The cosmic web does not need to be seen to be real. It hums beneath the surface, like the roots beneath a meadow, like the veins in your own hand. And though our eyes cannot glimpse it, directly we know it is there, cradling us in a structure both fragile and unshakable, delicate and vast beyond measure. There is something quietly unsettling about realizing that the universe is not empty space, but a structure. We are used to thinking of the sky as a vast black backdrop scattered with stars that shine like individual lanterns. Yet the more we learn, the more it resembles a woven fabric. Threads stretch across unimaginable distances, filaments guiding matter into place, knots gathering galaxies by the thousands, and voids opening like silent chambers in between. The cosmic web is not just a scattering, it is an arrangement. and arrangements often invite deeper questions. When you step into a forest and look down at the soil, you might notice a thin white fuzz spreading under fallen leaves. It looks delicate, almost accidental, but it is anything but. This is mycelium. The fungal network that links trees together passes nutrients and shares subtle signals. It is not a single organism in the ordinary sense, but a web of life that behaves as one. In some ways, the cosmic web stirs the same thought. Could something so intricate, so balanced, be more than just a pattern of matter? Could it hint at a kind of aliveness on a scale we are only beginning to imagine? Of course, scientists tread carefully here. The word alive carries weight. It suggests breath and growth, cells and cycles. The cosmic web does not breathe, at least not in the way our bodies do. It does not sprout leaves or bear fruit. Yet life, at its root, is often about networks, flows, and the ability to organize chaos into something that endures. By that measure, the web begins to whisper in familiar tones. Think for a moment about the veins in your own body. They are not random. They are mapped carefully to carry blood to every corner, to nourish every cell. The cosmic web, too, seems to serve a purpose. Gas flows along filaments, feeding galaxies. New stars are born at the nodes, glowing bright for millions or billions of years. The voids, empty though they seem, provide balance, letting the structure stretch without breaking. A body has bones, muscles, and empty lungs that expand and contract. A forest has trunks, branches, and open clearings. The universe, at its largest scale, has filaments, nodes, and voids. There is a kind of symmetry in this, a repetition of design across scales. Frost forms patterns on a window pane, with branching structures that look like rivers, veins, or lightning. Soap bubbles cluster into shapes that mimic the voids of the universe. A single neuron under a microscope looks like a galaxy cluster in a map of the sky. None of these are identical, but the echo is unmistakable. It is as if the universe has a favourite tune, one it hums quietly in different keys. And so we find ourselves returning to the question, not with urgency, but with a kind of patient curiosity. Could the universe itself be alive? Perhaps not in a strict biological sense, but in a way that matters less to definitions and more to wonder. Maybe life is not just a spark within cells, but a quality of systems that organise, that persist, that respond, and that evolve. Some thinkers have drawn parallels between the cosmic web and the neural networks of the brain. Both are made of nodes connected by filaments. Both rely on flows, of electrical signals in one, of gas and gravity in the other. Both give rise to complexity larger than their parts. It is tempting to imagine that if the brain can create thoughts and awareness, perhaps the universe can too, in ways far beyond our grasp. Even if this remains speculation, it is a gentle one, more a dream to cradle at night than a claim to carve in stone. It helps to remind ourselves that emergence is everywhere. A single bird does not form a flock, but place hundreds together, and they weave through the air like a single breathing creature. A grain of sand is lifeless, but countless grains together can shape dunes that ripple and move as if they were liquid. Water molecules, on their own, are simple, but join enough of them and they can form waves that surge and crash, appearing to act as one. When small parts join to form something new, something greater than the sum, we call that emergence. Perhaps the cosmic web is emergence written on the grandest scale. If so, it is not alone. Life on Earth is also a product of emergence. Cells form tissues, tissues form bodies, bodies form societies. Each level carries qualities that the level beneath could never have predicted. In that light, the universe as a whole may be another step in the same story. Atoms to molecules, molecules to life, life to consciousness, consciousness to something more, something woven into the cosmic fabric itself. Even if the universe is not alive in any biological sense, contemplating it as such changes the way we feel within it. Instead of drifting in emptiness, we rest in connection. Instead of standing on a tiny rock surrounded by indifference, we are threads in a tapestry that holds itself together across billions of light years. The idea does not need to be true in the strictest sense to be meaningful. It softens the edges of our solitude. As you rest here, imagine the universe as cloth stretched across the night, a quiet weave that supports everything we know. Picture the galaxies not as isolated sparks, but as beads sewn into a vast fabric, each tied to others by invisible threads. Picture the voids as the open spaces in lace, the gaps that give the pattern its form. Whether or not the web is alive, it feels alive when you see it this way. And perhaps that feeling is enough. Hold on to that thought like a faint thread between your fingers. The universe, woven and intricate, echoing the patterns of life even if it is not life itself. The cosmic web may not breathe, but it endures, and in its endurance we find a mirror of our own fragile persistence. Time har windhoisamt oss vis. For most of human history, our map of the universe was no larger than the patch of sky visible from a village field. People tilted their heads back and traced shapes among the stars, turning scattered points of light into bears, hunters, and flowing rivers of myth. The heavens felt vast yet intimate, close enough to paint stories onto. But slowly, patiently, we have learned that the true map of the universe stretches far beyond what the naked eye can draw, and that hidden within it is a structure far more intricate than a handful of constellations. The journey to chart the cosmic web did not begin with grand telescopes, but with the humble act of counting. Centuries ago, astronomers marked the positions of stars one by one, like careful surveyors sketching houses on a map. Later, with telescopes, galaxies began to emerge, spiral, elliptical, glowing patches of light. At first, they seemed to be scattered without order, but the more carefully astronomers looked, the more hints of clustering appeared. Galaxies liked company. They gathered in groups, in clusters, as if reluctant to drift alone. Imagine walking through a city at night and noting the glow of street lamps. From a single street corner, the pattern seems random. Lights near, lights far, each its own pool of brightness. But climb higher, onto a tall rooftop, and you begin to see the arrangement. Lamps line the streets, tracing paths. Intersections form knots of brightness where several avenues cross. The glow is not random after all. It is a map of the city's structure. In much the same way, astronomers needed a higher vantage point, not in space but in data, to see the pattern of galaxies in the universe. This higher view came with surveys like the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, or SDSS. Imagine pointing a telescope at not just a few patches of sky, but at millions of galaxies across the dome of night, carefully measuring their positions and distances. Piece them together, and suddenly the darkness comes alive with filaments and voids. It is like watching fog clear on a window pane, revealing a lattice hidden underneath. Where before there were only scattered points, now there were lines, clusters, and vast open regions that stretched like bubbles. The Sloan survey created some of the first truly detailed maps of the cosmic web. In them, astronomers could see slices of the universe like cross-sections of bread, each dotted with galaxies along filaments and punctuated by voids. Looking at these maps is a humbling experience. The Milky Way, our home, is simply one dot among millions, itself tucked inside a filament that threads toward greater knots of galaxies. Our familiar sky becomes a single stitch in a quilt that spreads across billions of light years, and we are still adding to this quilt. Upcoming projects, like the Dark Energy Spectroscopic Instrument, DESI for short, aim to chart tens of millions of galaxies, creating a map so vast and detailed it will resemble a three-dimensional sculpture of the universe itself. These projects are less like drawing a map of streets and more like mapping the entire landscape of continents, oceans and mountains all at once. Every new galaxy measured is another pin pushed into the board, another thread tied into the great design. Consider how remarkable this is. From a backyard telescope, you might catch a fuzzy spiral on a good night, light that left its stars millions of years ago. From such simple beginnings, we've stitched together a view of the largest structures the universe has ever known. It is a little like gathering pebbles from a shoreline and, with patience, realizing they trace the entire curve of the coast. When you hold this thought, the scale can feel dizzying. Each dot on those survey maps represents not a star, but a galaxy with hundreds of billions of stars, each of those stars with the chance of worlds, some of those worlds perhaps even with listeners like you, and all of them arranged along filaments like lanterns on unseen wires, glowing in the dark. There is poetry in the way these maps reveal both order and emptiness. For every filament bursting with galaxies, there are voids where almost nothing resides. Astronomers often describe them as cosmic bubbles, vast and hollow, spanning hundreds of millions of light years. If our galaxy were placed at the centre of such a void, we might never know other galaxies even existed. The night sky would be strangely empty, a lonely scattering instead of a crowded community. That we happen to live on the edge of a filament, within reach of other galaxies, feels like an accident of fortune. And so the cosmic web is not only a structure but also a perspective. It reminds us that our galaxy is not central, not unique, but part of a larger map that stretches far beyond imagination. We are residents of a quiet suburb, in a city that itself is part of a continent, connected by invisible highways to other shining metropolises. To see this is to let go of the illusion of isolation. Even at scales beyond human comprehension, connection is the rule, not the exception. So as you rest with this image, picture the universe as a map slowly filling with ink. Each observation, each galaxy measured, another point joined to the pattern. At first it is dots, then lines, then suddenly a web stretches across the page, and you, here and now, are part of that drawing, a small presence resting within the lines of a structure that has been unfolding for billions of years. When you look at a map of the cosmic web, it is hard not to think of cities and the roads that link them. The galaxies are not sprinkled randomly, but gathered in great clusters, like glowing metropolitan hubs. From each hub, filaments stretch outward, carrying streams of galaxies like highways at night. Where the highways cross, the lights brighten, swelling into knots of activity. Between them lie the dark expanses, the quiet countryside of the universe, where very little stirs. If our Milky Way is a single house, then our local group of galaxies is a neighbourhood. That neighbourhood is part of a larger district, the Virgo cluster, which itself belongs to an even greater region, the Laniakea supercluster. These layers are like districts, boroughs, cities and regions on a map of Earth. Each has its own density, its own rhythm of light and life, but none exists in isolation. Highways, the filaments, connect them, invisible to our eyes but clear in the cosmic design. Imagine for a moment standing at night on a hillside above a great city. Roads stretch away from the centre, glowing faintly with the movement of cars, each a tiny spark against the darkness. Out on the horizon, another city glimmers, its own network of lights faint but unmistakable. The road between them is thin, but it is enough. That is how astronomers see galaxy filaments, slender bridges of matter connecting enormous clusters, faint but essential. These cosmic highways are not paved with asphalt, of course, but with hydrogen gas and dark matter. Along them, galaxies form more easily, drawing nourishment from the rivers of gas that stream through the filaments. Where highways intersect, the density grows high enough to create superclusters, regions so vast they take hundreds of millions of light years to cross. To give perspective, if you could travel at the speed of light, you could circle Earth 7 times in a single second. But across one of these superclusters, would take you hundreds of millions of years. The numbers slip out of reach, and what remains is a quiet sense of awe. And then there are the voids, the silent lands between the cities. If filaments are highways, then voids are the deserts or oceans that separate them. They are not completely empty, but compared to the busy filaments, they are astonishingly bare. A few galaxies drift inside them, lonely outposts in the quiet. Yet even the emptiness has a role. The voids allow the filaments to stand out, just as spaces in a lace pattern make the threads more visible. In the balance of full and empty, the shape of the universe emerges. There is a strange comfort in this picture. Our galaxy, for all its hundreds of billions of stars, is not the centre of a grand design. It is a single house on a quiet street, connected by invisible roads to larger avenues and busier hubs. We're not alone, nor are we central. We are part of a sprawling cosmic metropolis, each region linked by pathways we can only glimpse in the faintest outlines. This way of seeing the universe also reminds us of patterns closer to home. Cities on Earth grow where rivers meet, where trade routes converge, where resources are plentiful. The same seems to be true for galaxies. They cluster at the intersections of filaments, where matter flows in from multiple directions, feeding them like rivers feeding a fertile delta. Just as human civilizations flourish where highways cross, galaxies flourish where cosmic filaments intersect. Think of the great hubs in human history, places like Rome, Istanbul, or Baghdad, centers where roads, trade, and cultures converged. In the cosmic sense, galaxy clusters are not so different. They are places of meeting, of density, of energy, and of growth. And just as smaller villages rely on the roads that connect them to larger cities, smaller galaxies rely on filaments to feed them the gas that sustains their stars. The pattern repeats itself across scales, whispering that perhaps growth and connection are universal principles, not confined to life on Earth. Let's pause to soften this with a quieter image. Imagine a quilt spread across a bed, stitched with patches of bright fabric. Each patch glows with its own colour, but the seams between them are what hold the whole piece together. Without the stitching, the patches would scatter. Without the quiet background fabric, the pattern would not emerge. The cosmic web is like that. Galaxies are the patches, filaments the stitches, and the voids the background that allows the design to take shape. Together they make not chaos, but something orderly, something almost comforting in its intricacy. It is easy to think of space as nothingness, but when we picture it as a cityscape, lights and roads, hubs and suburbs, the emptiness takes on new meaning. It is not barren, but part of the design. The dark between the cities is what allows the cities to shine. The highways may be faint, but they hold the story together. And here, on our little planet, we find ourselves living in one corner of this city of galaxies. We will never visit the next district, never stroll along a filament to the nearest hub. Yet by mapping the universe, by tracing these highways in light and shadow, we can know that they are there. We can rest in the knowledge that even in the silence of space, structure endures, connection endures. So let the thought settle gently. The universe is not scattered chaos, but a living map of cities and highways, filaments and voids. The Milky Way is one neighbourhood among many, joined by threads that stretch beyond sight, part of a design that spans the entire cosmos. And you, lying here tonight, are woven into that design, not apart from it, but resting within its quiet streets. Every structure we see in the universe, from the smallest galaxy to the largest cluster, owes its existence to something we cannot see. Dark matter is the quiet sculptor of the cosmos, the unseen hands that shape the cosmic web. Without it, the filaments would unravel, galaxies would scatter, and stars like our sun would never have gathered from the swirling gas of the early universe. It is a strange thought. Most of what holds us together is invisible. The chair you rest on, the walls around you, the bed beneath you, These are solid, tangible, yet in the cosmic sense, all of it makes up only a sliver of the universe's true mass. The rest is dark matter, silent and unseen. We do not know what it is made of. We cannot scoop it into jars, cannot photograph it directly, and yet we know it is there, because its gravity reveals itself in countless quiet ways. Imagine walking along a shoreline and watching waves bend around a rock hidden beneath the surface. You cannot see the rock itself, but you know it is there because the water curves around it. In the same way, light bends around concentrations of dark matter. This bending is called gravitational lensing. It is like holding a glass of water over a page of text. The words twist and curve, not because they have changed, but because the glass redirects them. When astronomers look at distant galaxies and see their light distorted, stretched into arcs and curves, they know they are looking through invisible lenses of dark matter. Gravitational lensing has become one of our best tools to map this unseen scaffolding. Picture astronomers as cartographers, tracing the faint distortions in starlight like surveyors measuring ripples on a pond. By collecting enough of these distortions, they can piece together outlines of the hidden structure, like revealing the shape of a ghost by the shadows it casts. The resulting maps show the same vast filaments we see in simulations, rivers of dark matter, thick with gravity, guiding galaxies into place, and simulations themselves have played a vital role. In computer models, physicists set the laws of gravity and motion, sprinkle in dark matter, and let the equations unfold across billions of years. What emerges is breathtakingly familiar. Filaments stretch across space, galaxies gather at the nodes, and voids open wide between them. It is as if the universe, left to its own devices, prefers to weave rather than scatter. Watching these models is like watching frost grow across a window pane in fast motion, branching and splitting until the glass is covered in delicate patterns. Dark matter does not glow, but it does guide. Its gravity acts as the hidden framework on which the bright stars and galaxies hang, like ornaments on the branches of a tree. Without the tree, the ornaments would tumble. With it, they form a pattern. You cannot see the wood beneath the tinsel, but it is the structure that makes the decoration possible. This scaffolding stretches across the universe at scales that challenge the imagination. One filament can span hundreds of millions of light years. If you could shrink the Milky Way to the size of a pea, the filament it rests in would stretch farther than a continent. The voids between filaments would be oceans of absence, vast hollows where almost nothing resides. And yet, this is not chaos. It is a design that repeats itself at different scales, a fractal-like harmony of threads and spaces. It is tempting to imagine dark matter as mysterious and frightening, but in a way, it is comforting. It is the quiet presence that holds the universe together, the invisible hand on your shoulder, reminding you that there is structure even in the dark. When you feel yourself drifting into uncertainty, consider that the universe itself rests on unseen foundations. You cannot see them, but they are there, constant and reliable. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about dark matter is how patient it is. Stars flare and die, galaxies collide and merge, but the web of dark matter endures. It is the skeleton of the universe, shaping the dance of luminous matter without ever joining the spotlight. In that sense, it is almost humble, content to guide without being seen. Think again of scaffolding around a cathedral. From the street you notice the towers, the stained glass, the bells ringing in the air. You might not notice the beams of wood or steel hidden behind cloth, holding the structure steady during its growth, but without them, the cathedral would crumble. Dark matter is that hidden support, not decorative, not bright, but essential. And so, as you imagine the cosmic web, picture not just the shining galaxies, but the invisible lattice beneath them. Picture rivers of dark matter, unseen but strong, drawing light into patterns that stretch across eternity. It is a reminder that what we cannot see can be just as real, just as vital as what we can. The most important structures may be the quietest. Let the thought rest with you gently. The universe is not only a scattering of stars, but a structure held together by an invisible framework. Dark matter is the silent architecture, the scaffolding on which all else depends. And though we may never touch it, we live within it, carried safely along its threads. If we cannot see the cosmic web directly, how do we know it is really there? Part of the answer lies not in the night sky, but in the quiet hum of computers. Astronomers and physicists have long turned to simulations to explore the universe's deeper structures, building digital models that let us watch billions of years unfold in moments. These simulations are more than just visualizations. They are experiments in patience, patterns, and inevitability. Imagine baking bread. You place flour, water, and yeast into a bowl and knead them into dough. Left alone, the dough rises, bubbles form, and cracks spread across the surface. You did not place each bubble by hand. The structure emerged naturally from the ingredients and the rules of chemistry. Cosmic simulations are much the same. Physicists begin with the ingredients, matter, dark matter, energy, and let the rules of gravity play out. What emerges is the universe itself, its filaments rising like veins in bread dough, its voids swelling like bubbles, its galaxies gathering at the intersections. One of the most famous simulations, the Millennium Simulation, was like peering into the diary of the cosmos. Thousands of processors worked in concert, calculating the pull of gravity on billions of particles of dark matter. When the results were stitched together, the outcome was startlingly familiar. A web of filaments and clusters, astonishingly like the maps drawn from real galaxy surveys. It was as though the computer had dreamed the universe, and the dream matched reality. Later simulations like Illustrious and Eagle took this further by including the luminous matter we can see, gas, stars, and galaxies. These models showed not just the scaffolding of dark matter, but how streams of hydrogen flowed along filaments, feeding galaxies the way rivers feed fertile valleys. The galaxies brightened, evolved, and collided in the simulation, just as they do in the real sky. The resemblance between simulation and observation was so close that it felt less like invention and more like recognition, as if the universe itself had been patiently waiting for us to notice the rules it had always followed. Think of a snowflake forming on a window. At first, a single point of ice appears, then branches spread outward, splitting and repeating until the glass is covered in intricate patterns. If you ran the process again under the same conditions, you would get a different snowflake. But the overall pattern, the branching, the symmetry, would always return. The cosmic web is like that. The details shift depending on where matter gathers, but the large-scale pattern is inevitable. It is what gravity, left to its own devices, prefers to create. There is something deeply calming in this inevitability. We often think of the universe as chaos, as randomness, as accidents strung together. But at the larger scales, it is neither random nor chaotic. It is patterned, inevitable, and strangely elegant. Give the universe its ingredients, and it will weave filaments every time. Just as rivers carve valleys, frost makes branching shapes, and lightning forks across the sky, the cosmic web is the natural shape of gravity at work. Of course, simulations are not perfect. They are simplifications, attempts to capture complexity with numbers. But their success lies in how well they echo reality. When astronomers look at the maps from galaxy surveys and compare them with the simulations, the resemblance is uncanny. Both show filaments hundreds of millions of light years long. Both show knots of galaxies where filaments intersect. Both show vast voids, hollow as bubbles in rising dough. It is as though the universe itself has been whispering the same pattern, across every level of observation. And perhaps that is the deeper lesson here. Patterns are not accidents. They are the signatures of order. When a flock of starlings wheels through the sky in perfect synchrony, we do not think it is random. When ripples spread from a pebble tossed into water, we know the waves follow rules. The cosmic web, too, is the result of simple rules playing out at unimaginable scales. Gravity pulls, matter gathers, patterns emerge. It is that simple and that profound. To sit with this knowledge is to feel both small and held. We are tiny compared to the filaments that stretch across billions of light years. And yet, we are also participants in the same pattern. The atoms in our bodies are arranged by the same laws, the same quiet gravity that shaped the web. In that sense, we are not outside of it, not spectators, but threads within it. Let the thought rest with you gently. The universe, left to itself, weaves webs. It cannot help but create structure, order, connection. And though we cannot see the web directly with our eyes, we can simulate it, trace it, imagine it. Like a child sketching the outline of an invisible kite by watching how the string pulls, we can see the unseen through its effects. So close your eyes and picture it. A universe unfolding in slow motion, threads pulling together, voids expanding, galaxies lighting up like lanterns on a net. Picture the patient hand of gravity drawing the same design over and over, across scales too vast to fathom. This is the shape of inevitability, the quiet architecture of everything. If you picture the filaments of the cosmic web as bare threads, thin lines stretched across a dark canvas, you might imagine them as quiet, static strands. But these threads are not still. They carry something silently, invisibly, across the great distances of space. They are rivers not of water, but of hydrogen gas, the most basic and abundant element in the cosmos. These rivers feed the galaxies like canals carrying water to thirsty fields. Every star that ever burned, every planet that ever formed, every atom of oxygen in your lungs began as hydrogen gathered along these filaments. It is easy to forget as we live among solid ground and flowing oceans that the universe's true nourishment is carried in streams we cannot see. Without these rivers in the dark, galaxies would starve, their stars fading one by one until nothing remained. Think of a farmer walking between irrigation canals at dawn. Water glides softly through the channels, feeding the fields in silence. Each seed, each stalk of grain, relies on that unseen flow. The cosmic web is the farmer's field, galaxies are the crops, and filaments are the irrigation lines. The water is hydrogen, trickling not in drops, but in flows that span millions of light years. Hydrogen has been the universe's companion since the beginning. Born in the furnace of the Big Bang, it drifted through the expanding cosmos like mist. Left to itself, it would have remained diffuse, thin as smoke, too scattered to form anything substantial. But gravity, patient and unrelenting, gathered it. Dark matter's filaments became channels, and hydrogen flowed into them, pulled along invisible slopes. Slowly, rivers formed. They carried matter into nodes, the great intersections where galaxies bloomed like orchards at a confluence of rivers. Astronomers have begun to glimpse these rivers directly, though faintly. With sensitive instruments, they detect the dim glow of hydrogen gas stretching between galaxies. It is a fragile light, as delicate as candle flames seen across a valley. But its presence confirms what simulations had long predicted. Galaxies are not isolated fires burning their own fuel, but living systems fed by steady streams. They drink from the web, and in doing so, they shine. Imagine following such a river. You drift along a filament floating in silence. On either side, faint galaxies glimmer, like cottages lining a waterway. The current is invisible, yet it carries you gently forward. Here and there, tributaries join, flows of gas merging like streams converging in a valley. The further you go, the denser the river becomes, until you arrive at a knot where many filaments meet. It is here that galaxies thrive in the richest abundance, their stars burning bright on the nourishment delivered by countless rivers. There is something almost biological about this. Rivers sustain bodies just as veins sustain tissues, just as roots sustain trees. The cosmic web is not alive in the sense of heartbeat or breath, but its patterns echo life. Flows of energy and matter sustain growth and balance emptiness with fullness. We are reminded that life itself on Earth emerged from water coursing through rivers and seas. Perhaps it is fitting that the cosmos itself is patterned with rivers too, though on scales so vast we can scarcely imagine them. These rivers are not only providers but sculptors. As gas flows along filaments, it does not simply deliver fuel. It shapes galaxies, influencing how they form, how they grow, and even how they spin. In a way, the galaxies are like villages built along waterways, their histories determined by the rivers that pass through them. Some flourish where currents converge, others remain small outposts along quieter streams. The river's path becomes the destiny of what it feeds, and yet just as on Earth, rivers can run dry. Over cosmic time, hydrogen becomes locked in stars or expelled in winds from supernovae. Filaments thin as the universe expands, their flows weakening. Galaxies that were once lush with star birth may find themselves in famine, their rivers trickling to a halt. In this way, the cosmic web tells a story not only of growth, but of impermanence. Nourishment is not eternal. It comes in waves, in flows, in quiet cycles that echo life's own seasons. Pause here and imagine the thought as gently as possible. You're floating within a universe sustained by rivers. Every star overhead, every photon of starlight that reaches your eye, was born from hydrogen flowing along invisible canals. Even your own body is made from atoms that once travelled those streams. Hydrogen fused into heavier elements, then spread outward in the death of stars, then gathered into you. You are, in the quietest and most literal sense, a child of rivers that span the cosmos. There is a tenderness in that idea. It suggests that even in the silence of space there is giving and receiving, nourishment and growth. The cosmic web is not barren scaffolding. It is an irrigation system for the universe, keeping galaxies alive across billions of years. And though we may never sail those rivers, we carry their gifts within us in every breath, in every heartbeat. So let the image rest softly with you. Threads of hydrogen flowing through darkness, feeding galaxies the way streams nourish fields. The web is not still, but alive with motion, slow and steady, invisible yet essential. Like water whispering through channels, it sustains a cosmos that shines with stars. And within that same web, you too are carried, nourished by rivers that began their journey at the dawn of time. If filaments are the rivers of the universe, then their intersections are the harbours and marketplaces, the bustling places where everything comes together. Astronomers call them superclusters, enormous knots where many filaments converge, rich with galaxies, bright with activity. They are the hubs of the cosmic web, the grand stations where countless journeys meet. Our own galaxy belongs to one of these hubs. The Milky Way is part of a local group of galaxies, which in turn belongs to the Virgo cluster, itself a neighbourhood within something even larger, the Laniakea supercluster. Laniakea is a Hawaiian word meaning immeasurable heaven, a name chosen to reflect its vastness. This single structure stretches across more than 500 million light-years and contains about 100,000 galaxies. Imagine that. Our galaxy, with its hundreds of billions of stars, is only a small house on one quiet street in a city of unimaginable scale. And that city is only one among many in the endless fabric of the cosmos. To visualize a supercluster, think of a train station at night. The tracks extend outward in every direction, faint lines vanishing into the dark. From the distance, they may look like empty lines of steel, but as you step closer, you see the platforms glow with lamps, hear the murmur of arrivals and departures. This is the node of connection, where paths that once wandered alone suddenly join. In the same way, a supercluster is the bright junction where cosmic highways meet, swelling with galaxies like travelers gathered in one place. Among these hubs are some of the grandest structures we have ever found. The Sloan Great Wall, mapped by the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, is a vast chain of galaxies stretching over 1.4 billion light-years. To cross it, even at the speed of light, would take longer than Earth has been home to complex life, and yet, even this immense wall is but one part of a greater weave, one knot in a tapestry that stretches beyond the limits of our instruments. There is a humbling truth here. The larger the scale we examine, the less central we become. Once we thought Earth was the centre of the universe. Later we realised we were one planet circling one star in a galaxy of billions. Now, even our galaxy is just one light in a cluster, our cluster one knot in a supercluster, and our supercluster one region among countless others. At every level the map expands, and our place within it grows smaller. But instead of despair, there is a quiet comfort in this. To be part of something immeasurable is to never be alone. These knots of light are not only places of density, but also of drama. Galaxies collide more often in these hubs, drawn together by gravity's embrace. When two galaxies merge, their stars mostly pass by one another. Space is vast, and direct collisions are rare, but their gas clouds mingle, compress, and ignite new waves of starbirth. Imagine two rivers meeting at a delta, their waters swirling, mixing, and feeding a lush wetland. So too do galaxies bloom anew in these crowded knots, their encounters sparking bursts of creation. If you could drift above a supercluster and gaze down, you might see filaments as glowing roads feeding into the hub. The galaxies at the intersections would sparkle more brightly, crowded like lanterns at a festival. The voids beyond would appear dark, like quiet fields outside a city. And at the very heart of the hub might lie a colossal galaxy, formed from countless mergers, a glowing capital that anchors the entire region. Even the names of these structures echo their scale. The Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall, the CFA2 Great Wall, the Pisces Cetus Supercluster Complex. Each name is a reminder that our words strain to capture the immensity. These walls and knots are not walls you could touch, nor knots you could untangle. They are concentrations of light and matter so vast that the human mind can only brush against their meaning. And yet, when we think of them in familiar terms, train stations, cities, crossroads, they become less alien. They are not cold numbers, but places. Places where the rivers of the cosmos meet. Places where galaxies gather, evolve and shine. Places we can imagine standing in, if only in dreams. Consider again Laniakea, our own immeasurable home. Within it lies the Milky Way, our solar system, our Earth, and you. To say you are a resident of Earth is true. To say you belong to the Milky Way is also true. But equally true is this: you are a resident of Laniakea, a citizen of a supercluster, a thread woven into a knot of light that spans 500 million light-years. It is your cosmic address, written not in street names but in filaments of hydrogen and dark matter. There is something soothing in imagining this grand address. It tells us that even though we may feel small, we belong to something immense. The galaxies above your head tonight are not scattered strangers, but neighbours in a superclustered city, bound by highways of invisible matter. You are not adrift. You are part of a hub, a knot, a place where rivers meet and galaxies shine together. So as you rest now, imagine the glow of those knots in the darkness, intersections shining like lanterns where countless journeys converge. The cosmic web is not empty, Not lonely, it is a city of light, a gathering of hubs and highways, and somewhere within it, your own galaxy rests quietly, another traveller among many, at home in the immeasurable heaven of Laniakea. So far, we have lingered on the filaments and knots, the glowing highways and crowded stations of the universe, but the cosmic web is not only made of fullness, just as important are the vast expanses in between, the cosmic voids. These regions are not sprinkled with galaxies, not lined with glowing rivers of gas, but are instead remarkable for their emptiness. They are the quiet countryside between bustling cities, the pauses in a piece of music, the open space on a canvas that gives form to the painted strokes. At first, emptiness may sound unsettling. After all, our instincts tell us to value the crowded, the lively, the places brimming with light. A city square feels safer than a dark alley. A marketplace hums with connection, while a silent field can feel isolating. But the universe does not share our preference. For every luminous filament there is a dark hollow. For every knot of galaxies there is a void spreading hundreds of millions of light-year across. The cosmic web is not a chain of endless fullness. It is a dance of presence and absence, each giving meaning to the other. Imagine for a moment walking through farmland at twilight. You pass through a village where the windows glow warmly, neighbours gather, and voices drift through the air. But step beyond the last house, and suddenly you're surrounded by quiet fields stretching into the distance. The silence deepens, the stars above seem brighter, and the absence of houses makes the memory of the village glow even more vividly in your mind. That is what voids do in the universe. They amplify the brightness of the filaments by providing contrast, by being spaces where light has chosen not to dwell. These voids are not truly empty, of course. A few galaxies drift inside them, lonely wanderers adrift in seas of silence. But compared to the richness of the filaments, they are sparse. If you lived in one of those galaxies, the night sky would look very different. Fewer neighbouring galaxies would be visible. The sense of cosmic community would fade into isolation. From such a vantage point, one might never realise the web existed at all. In a way, our fortune is to live on the edge of a filament, close enough to see the clustering, close enough to sense the shape of the weave. What creates these voids? Gravity, once again, is the artist. Where matter is slightly denser, gravity pulls it together, forming filaments. Where it is slightly thinner, matter drains away, leaving hollows that grow larger over billions of years. The result is not uniformity, but contrast. Threads of fullness stitched across vast fields of absence. Just as rivers deepen valleys and leave behind ridges, the process of clustering creates both the crowded and the empty, and the emptiness has its role. Without voids, filaments would blur together, their shapes lost in crowding. Without pauses, music would be noise. Without silence, speech would collapse into a blur of sound. The voids are what allow the filaments to be filaments. They are not failures of creation, but essential ingredients of the pattern. Think of lace. The beauty of lacework lies not only in the threads that weave across it, but in the spaces left open. The gaps give the pattern its delicacy, its definition. Remove the spaces, and the lace becomes cloth. Remove the threads, and it becomes nothing. It is the balance between presence and absence that creates art. The cosmic web is lace stretched across the cosmos, delicate not despite its voids but because of them. Or think of a Japanese garden, where raked gravel spreads wide and empty around carefully placed stones. The open space is not wasted. It is part of the design. It gives the eye rest, makes the stones more vivid. The universe seems to follow the same aesthetic, scattering its galaxies with restraint, leaving space enough for wonder. Even in our daily lives, emptiness carries meaning. A pause in conversation lets words settle. A breath between notes in a song makes the melody sing more clearly. Sleep itself is a kind of emptiness in time, a quiet hollow that gives shape to the waking hours. Without these spaces, our lives would blur into noise. Without voids, the universe would blur into uniformity. It may be tempting to imagine the voids as lonely or wasted, but perhaps they are not lonely at all. Perhaps they are the universe's way of resting, of allowing the fabric to stretch without tearing. They are the silence that makes the music, the blank page that makes the writing legible. In their emptiness lies meaning. So as you rest now, let yourself imagine drifting through one of these vast voids. At first, the silence may feel endless, the darkness unbroken, but slowly, far away, you see the glow of a filament, a line of galaxies shimmering like lanterns along a ridge. The emptiness makes the light more precious, the silence makes the glow more profound, and you realise that without the quiet countryside, the city would never shine so brightly. The cosmic web is not only threads and knots, it is the balance between full and empty, presence and absence, and in that balance lies its beauty. When you walk in a forest after rain, you may notice mushrooms pushing quietly through the soil, pale caps breaking the surface like lanterns in the damp earth. What you do not see is what lies beneath, a vast hidden network of threads called mycelium. These threads spread for meters, sometimes kilometers, connecting tree roots, passing nutrients, and even transmitting signals. The forest floor is not a scattering of isolated trees, but a woven community, bound together by threads invisible to the casual glance. The cosmic web is like that. On the surface, we see galaxies, glowing like mushrooms after a storm, bright, individual, and seemingly apart. But beneath, or rather between them, there are threads, filaments of dark matter and hydrogen gas, invisible to our eyes yet essential for the life of galaxies. The web is not only a pattern of structure, it is a hidden connective tissue, carrying nourishment and linking the universe in ways that echo the earthy networks beneath our feet. Scientists have long noticed the similarity between these forms. Mycelium spreads in branching filamentous shapes, connecting nodes of roots and trees. The cosmic web spreads in branching filaments, linking galaxies and clusters. Both are networks, organic in one case, cosmic in the other, yet governed by the same quiet logic of efficiency. Paths are formed to minimize effort, to carry resources where they are needed, to balance fullness with emptiness. Imagine lying on your back in a clearing, gazing up at the stars while knowing that under your body, a second sky is spread in the soil. Above you, galaxies shine, strung along filaments that stretch across the universe. Beneath you, threads of fungi weave silently, connecting life in the forest. The scales are different, kilometers below, billions of light years above, but the patterns hum in harmony. This resemblance is not only poetic but mathematical. Studies have compared the structure of the cosmic web to that of mycelial networks and other natural systems. Surprisingly, the patterns overlap. The same branching angles, the same balance of density and space appear again and again. It is as though the universe has favourite shapes, repeating them across scales from the microscopic to the galactic. Consider water seeping through soil. It does not spread evenly, but carves channels, forming branching veins that distribute moisture, or lightning flashing across the sky, splitting into jagged paths that seek the shortest route to the ground, or the roots of a tree spreading outward, finding the most efficient way to gather nutrients. The cosmic web follows similar rules, not because it is imitating life, but because the mathematics of networks is universal. Wherever matter or energy must flow, branching appears. And so galaxies are not sprinkled randomly, but aligned along invisible paths, just as mushrooms grow along the buried lines of mycelium. In both cases, what you see above ground is only the visible tip of a hidden structure. The forest and the universe whisper the same lesson. connection often hides beneath the surface. There is something quietly reassuring in this. We often feel separate, as though each of us lives in isolation, a single spark in the dark. But both the forest and the cosmos remind us that separation is an illusion. Beneath the soil, beneath the starlight, threads bind everything together. Some of those threads carry nutrients, others carry gas and gravity, but all of them speak the same truth: nothing exists alone. Picture yourself wandering through a damp woodland path, the smell of moss thick in the air. Mushrooms dot the ground, their shapes varied, their presence sudden after rain. Each seems alone, yet beneath them a web stretches. Now picture yourself drifting in the dark between galaxies. Points of light shine around you, each one vast, each one apparently solitary. Yet between them stretch filaments of gas and dark matter, invisible but real. The forest floor and the night sky blur into one, both woven, both alive with hidden threads. It may be tempting to think of this as mere coincidence. After all, forests and galaxies could not be more different. One is made of soil and life, the other of hydrogen and gravity. Yet the resonance between them suggests something deeper, that the universe favours networks. From roots to rivers, from neurons to galaxies, the same shapes emerge, the same quiet efficiency, the same balance of branching and flow repeats itself across scales. Perhaps this is why the cosmic web feels so strangely familiar, even though we cannot see it with our eyes. When we imagine its filaments, we recognize them instinctively because we have seen similar shapes before, in roots, in veins, in rivers, in lightning. It is not alien to us. It is a pattern our minds already know, so let the thought rest with you. The universe, at its largest scale, resembles the forest at your feet. Both are woven, both are sustained by hidden flows, both remind us that life and matter alike are sustained by connection. The mushrooms on the forest floor, the galaxies in the night sky. They are lanterns on threads we cannot always see, but threads that carry the quiet pulse of existence. And in that realization, there is comfort. You're not drifting alone in a dark, empty cosmos. You're resting within a web of connection, one that stretches from the soil beneath your feet to the galaxies above your head. The forest whispers it, the universe whispers it, and if you listen closely, you might feel yourself as part of that great, branching mycelium of stars. When scientists first mapped the cosmic web in detail, some were startled by how familiar it looked. Not familiar like a city map or a tree branch, but familiar in a way that touched something deep within us. The branching filaments, the glowing nodes, the empty spaces in between, it all resembled something much closer to home, the network inside our own minds. The human brain is a forest of neurons. Each neuron is a tiny cell with branching arms that reach out to connect with others. Where connections form, information passes, and from the sum of those countless exchanges comes thought, memory, and awareness. Seen under a microscope, a map of neurons is a web of filaments and nodes, strikingly similar in structure to the cosmic web. When researchers compared the two systems mathematically, the parallels were undeniable. Both distribute connections in ways that balance efficiency and resilience. Both grow by, favouring some nodes over others, creating hubs where many lines converge. Both exist as networks where the whole is far more than the sum of its parts. Imagine stringing up Christmas lights. You drape them across a wall in loops and tangles, with brighter knots where the cords overlap. From across the room, the pattern looks like a net of light. Now imagine those lights represent neurons in your mind, flashing with electrical sparks. Or imagine galaxies, shining at the intersections of filaments. At one scale, you have thought. At another, you have the cosmos. The similarity does not prove that the universe is a brain, but it invites the question: could the universe think in some way beyond our comprehension? Thinking, after all, is not a single act but a pattern of connections. When you recall a memory, dozens or hundreds of neurons fire in coordination. When you learn something new, new connections form. The cosmic web, too, is a system of connections linking galaxies across billions of light years. Gas flows along these lines, matter moves, energy travels. What if, in some way we cannot yet detect, these exchanges form a larger kind of process, one that might resemble the way thought emerges from neurons? This is speculation, of course, and scientists are careful with such ideas. But speculation can be a gentle exercise, especially when framed not as answers but as wonder. Could the universe itself hold a kind of awareness, not like ours, but vast, slow, and woven into its very structure? Think of a coral reef. To a casual swimmer, it looks like a scattering of separate creatures, fish darting, corals branching, seaweed waving. But seen as a whole, a reef is a single system, exchanging energy, responding to changes, even showing resilience when parts are damaged. The cosmic web might be something like that, a living reef of galaxies, each one small on its own, but together forming a system that behaves in ways no single part could predict. Or consider the way flocks of birds move. Each bird follows simple rules: stay close, don't collide, match your neighbour. From those simple rules emerges an entire murmuration, twisting and wheeling as if guided by a single mind. The cosmic web follows simple rules too. Gravity pulls, gas flows, matter gathers. But perhaps the sum is more than the rules. Perhaps the web as a whole has emergent properties we do not yet understand. The comparison to a brain is especially tempting because brains create thought, and we humans are creatures of thought. When we see a network that resembles our own, we naturally wonder if it too could think. But even if the universe is not aware, the resemblance itself tells us something profound. The same mathematics governs both our minds and the cosmos. Patterns of connection repeat across scales, from neurons to galaxies, as if reminding us that we are not separate from the universe, but echoes of it. Picture yourself sitting quietly, eyes closed. Neurons in your brain flicker with activity, passing signals, shaping dreams and reflections. At the same time, far above and around you, galaxies glimmer at the intersections of filaments, matter flows, gravity connects. The patterns hum in harmony, one inside your skull, one stretched across billions of light years. You are, in a very real way, a small echo of the larger design. This thought need not be frightening. It does not diminish your individuality or humanity. Instead, it can be soothing, even intimate. The universe is not entirely foreign. It shares with you the same fondness for networks, for threads, for hubs. You're made in its likeness, not by design, but by the quiet inevitability of patterns. And so the question, does the universe think, does not demand an answer. It is not a puzzle to solve, but a lullaby to consider. Perhaps it does, perhaps it does not. Perhaps thought itself is too narrow a word for what might emerge from a system as vast as the cosmos. But by asking, by wondering, we allow ourselves to feel part of something larger, something that resonates with our very being. Let the image drift with you. Tangled Christmas lights glowing in the dark, neurons flashing in the silence of your mind, galaxies shining in the vastness of the sky. All are threads, all are nodes, all are networks. Whether or not the universe thinks, it is at least patterned in ways that invite us to dream it so. And sometimes, dreaming is a stuff. When you look at a map of the cosmic web, it is tempting to imagine the filaments as more than just bridges of matter. They stretch like cords between galaxies, carrying hydrogen gas and dark matter. But could they also carry something subtler, some form of communication or influence flowing across the cosmos? We already know they carry nourishment. Hydrogen flows like water through irrigation canals, fueling the birth of stars. Gravity pulls along these same filaments, shaping the fates of galaxies. Radiation too travels through them, passing light and energy across vast gulfs. These are forms of exchange, quiet currents that link one region of the universe to another. They are not communication in the way we speak of words or signals, but they are connections nonetheless. Imagine a line of friends whispering to one another in a long chain. The first whispers to the second to the third, and so on. By the time the message reaches the end, it may be distorted, but something has passed along the line. The cosmic web could be something like that. Galaxies influencing one another not directly, but through the flows and ripples that travel along their shared filaments. A galaxy at one end of a filament might send out streams of gas that eventually reach another, changing its rate of star formation. A burst of energy in one region could ripple outward, like a pebble dropped into water. Of course, we must be careful not to anthropomorphize. The web is not speaking in words or thoughts. Its messages are gravity and gas, radiation and motion. Yet even so, the idea of influence travelling through the web invites a kind of quiet awe. Galaxies are not alone, but participants in a larger conversation, their fates intertwined by the threads that bind them. In the forest, trees connected by mycelium can share nutrients. A tree in sunlight may pass sugars to one in shade, helping it survive. Some studies even suggest that signals of stress can travel through these underground threads, warning neighbours of danger. In a sense, the forest communicates, not with words, but with flows. Could the universe be similar? Could galaxies be like trees, sending matter and energy along filaments, shaping one another in ways that echo communication? Consider the way rivers connect cities. A boat leaving one port carries goods downstream. Along the way, towns take what they need and pass the rest along. By the time the river reaches the sea, its cargo has been shared, traded, transformed. The filaments of the cosmic web may act like such rivers. A stream of hydrogen flowing from one node can feed smaller galaxies along the way, leaving traces of influence scattered like traded wares. There is another layer to this. Galaxies not only receive matter, they also give it back. Supernovae, the explosive deaths of massive stars, hurl gas and heavy elements outward. Quasars powered by ravenous black holes blast radiation into space. These outflows travel along filaments, reaching far beyond the galaxies that produced them. They are like shouts echoing down a canyon, reverberating through the structure of the web. Other galaxies in turn may feel the effects, slight changes in the density of gas, subtle nudges in how stars are born. It is not language, but it is influence. And influence, in its broadest sense, is a kind of communication. Not the deliberate exchange of information, but the unavoidable sharing of conditions. When you sit beside a campfire, you do not intend to communicate warmth to your neighbour, yet they feel it. The web too shares warmth, light, and matter across its threads. Galaxies are affected by one another simply by existing in the same weave. It may be that, in the deepest sense, the cosmic web is not a static scaffold, but a system of exchanges, a network of influence. Its filaments are not silent wires, but channels of motion and energy. If so, the universe is less like a frozen tapestry, and more like a living circulation, a body whose veins carry both nourishment and signals. Speculating on this does not mean imagining the universe sending us messages or hiding intentions. It means seeing the cosmos as a dynamic whole, where nothing is truly separate. Just as air currents connect distant regions of Earth, shaping weather in places thousands of miles apart, the filaments of the web may connect galaxies in ways that ripple across unimaginable distances. Think again of whispers in a chain of friends, or ripples spreading across a pond. Think of roots in a forest passing nutrients from one tree to another, or a river carrying goods downstream. These are the metaphors that let us imagine what it means for the universe to be connected, not only in structure but in exchange. Whether or not we call it communication, the web carries influence across its threads. So as you drift into rest, let yourself imagine lying at the centre of one of these filaments. Around you, invisible rivers flow, carrying matter, energy, and light. Far away, galaxies glimmer, their presence faint but real, connected to you by unseen cords. Though they do not speak, though they do not send words, their existence influences yours, just as yours influences theirs. The universe is not a scattering of separate sparks, but a conversation of light carried along threads of darkness. So far, we have spoken of the cosmic web as though gravity alone were its architect, pulling matter into filaments and guiding galaxies into knots. And in one sense, that is true. Gravity is the patient sculptor, the steady hand that shapes the overall design. But the story of the web is not gravity's story alone. There are other forces, other flows that make the tapestry dynamic rather than static. Consider rivers on Earth. Gravity pulls water downhill, carving valleys and shaping land. But rivers do more than fall. They carry soil, nutrients and seeds. They erode rocks, deposit sediment, change the shape of their banks, and feed the ecosystems around them. Gravity may set the current in motion, but it is the river itself that creates life along its path. The filaments of the universe work in a similar way. They do not only guide galaxies into place, they carry streams of gas, bursts of energy, and waves of radiation that shape galaxies in ways gravity alone cannot explain. One of the most important of these flows is gas. Cold hydrogen streams along the filaments, not just providing raw material for stars, but influencing how galaxies evolve. A galaxy that sits at the crossing of several filaments is like a town at the confluence of rivers. It receives more nourishment, more traffic, and as a result it grows larger and more complex. Smaller galaxies at the edges of filaments may receive less, remaining quiet villages rather than bustling cities. The placement along the flow matters just as much as the flow itself. Then there is radiation. When massive stars die in supernova explosions, they release not only heavy elements but powerful winds of energy. When black holes at the hearts of galaxies feed too quickly, they ignite as quasars, blasting jets of radiation that pierce the surrounding space. These outbursts can travel along filaments, heating gas, ionizing it, and sometimes pushing it away from galaxies entirely. In this way, the filaments are not just passive highways but active channels, carrying both nourishment and disruption. Imagine a hillside covered in soil. Rainwater trickles down, carrying nutrients that feed the plants below, but a sudden storm may wash too much soil away, leaving scars, gullies, or bare rock. The cosmic web works in much the same way. Gentle flows feed galaxies, violent bursts can strip them, stunting growth or changing their fate. The web is not a silent scaffold. It is a system alive with exchange, with both creation and erosion. Magnetic fields too may play a role. Though faint, they thread through galaxies and perhaps through filaments as well, influencing how gas moves and how stars form. We cannot yet map them clearly across the web, but their presence is suspected. Like unseen currents beneath the surface of the sea, they may shape the flows in ways we are only beginning to guess, guiding the invisible rivers of gas with a subtle hand. When we step back and see all these forces together, gravity, gas, radiation, magnetic fields, the web becomes less like a fixed lattice and more like a dynamic organism. Its threads are alive with motion, pulsing with flows, shaped by feedback loops. Galaxies send energy into the web in turn feeds galaxies, and the cycle continues. It is less like scaffolding and more like circulation, less like a frozen net and more like veins in a body. This does not mean the universe is literally alive. but the parallels are hard to ignore. In a body, blood carries oxygen and nutrients, but also signals, hormones, immune cells that influence growth and change. In the web, gas carries nourishment, but also carries the imprints of explosions and outbursts, influencing what galaxies can become. Both are networks of flow, both are sustained by exchange, both balance order with motion. It is worth pausing to feel the comfort of this image. The universe is not empty scaffolding, but a system of flows. You're not resting in a cold structure, but in a circulation that moves, that nourishes, that evolves. The stars overhead are not random points, but part of a larger pulse, a quiet circulation that has carried matter and energy for billions of years. Picture it this way. You're lying beside a great river at night. The current moves silently, carrying unseen cargo. Here and there, lanterns float downstream, glowing softly as they pass. The river nourishes fields along its banks, but sometimes floods, sometimes erodes, sometimes shifts course. You cannot control it, you cannot see all of it, but you know it flows endlessly, shaping everything it touches. That is the cosmic web, silent currents in the dark, carrying both life and change across the cosmos. Even as we rest in this thought, it is important to remember that we are part of it. The atoms in your body were once part of these flows, hydrogen carried along filaments, fused in stars, spread in explosions, gathered again into the air you breathe and the blood that moves through you. You're not separate from the circulation. You're one of its outcomes, one of its temporary shapes, a living echo of the same, flows that sculpt galaxies. So let the thought ease you into stillness. The cosmic web is more than scaffolding, more than frozen threads of gravity. It is a network of flows, of gas and energy, of quiet currents that feed and shape the universe. It is not a static map, but a living circulation, and you, here and now, are part of its endless exchange. The question of whether the universe might be alive brings us softly to a deeper puzzle. What does it even mean to be alive? It is the kind of question that seems simple until you try to answer it, and then it becomes slippery, like trying to hold water in your hands. Biologists often describe life with a handful of qualities. A living thing can grow, it can respond to its environment, it can reproduce, it can take in energy and transform it, a process we call metabolism. It can, in some sense, sustain itself against the pull of entropy, the slow drift into disorder. These are the checkboxes of life, the criteria we learn in school. A child grows taller, their body repairing itself, transforming food into energy. A fire, in its way, seems to eat the wood it consumes, growing larger, glowing brighter, though we know it is not alive. Definitions are tricky, and the border between living and not living is not as clean as we might hope. Think for a moment about a seed. Dry, hard, seemingly lifeless. In your hand it feels inert, no different from a pebble. But place it in soil, give it water, let sunlight fall across it, and it awakens. It draws energy, it grows roots and leaves, it becomes a plant. Life is not always obvious at first glance. Sometimes it hides, waiting for the right conditions, carrying the potential quietly inside. Or think of a child at play. They run, laugh, stumble, and get up again. Their body is growing, their mind is learning, their cells dividing invisibly with every moment. We look at them and feel certain, this is life. Now contrast that with a flame. It flickers, leaps, consumes fuel, and glows warmly in the dark. It too grows and changes, but we do not call it alive. Why not? Is it because it does not reproduce? Because it does not carry memory or repair itself? Somewhere between child and flame, we draw a line, but the line is less solid than we think. Scientists debate where to place that line. Viruses, for example, hover uneasily between categories. They cannot reproduce on their own, yet they hijack the machinery of cells to multiply. Are they alive or not? Crystals can grow, copying their shapes as new layers form. Are they alive or simply following chemistry? Even on Earth, the borderlands of life are blurry. And so, when we look to the cosmos and ask, could the universe be alive? We must tread carefully. If we mean alive in the sense of cells and DNA, the answer is likely no. But if we mean alive in the sense of growth, self-organization, and sustained pattern, the question becomes less absurd. The cosmic web grows. After all, it feeds galaxies through its filaments. It evolves, changing shape as stars are born and die. It resists chaos by weaving itself into order, structure from randomness. In some ways, those are the very hallmarks of life. Picture again the cosmic web as a body. Filaments are its veins, carrying hydrogen like blood. Galaxies are its organs, burning and glowing, transforming fuel into light. Superclusters are its hubs, its knots of activity, and voids, empty though they seem, are its lungs, spaces that allow the rest to breathe and stretch. The analogy is imperfect, but it invites a certain wonder. Perhaps life is not only something that happens in small scales, in cells and bodies. Perhaps it can also describe patterns written across the largest stage imaginable. Of course, there is caution in this comparison. We must not mistake metaphor for proof. The universe is not a person. It does not have intention, or desires, or consciousness in the way we understand it. To call it alive is to borrow language from our own small corner of existence. And yet, metaphors matter. They shape how we think, how we feel, how we rest in the cosmos. To imagine the universe as alive is to imagine ourselves not as outsiders looking at a machine, but as participants inside a living system. Life, at its heart, is not just a checklist of traits. It is a feeling of vitality, of persistence against the odds. It is the green of leaves pushing through pavement, the pulse of a heartbeat in the quiet night, the spark of awareness in your own mind. The cosmic web does not have leaves, or heartbeats, or sparks of thought that we know of, but it does have persistence and pattern, and an unfolding that looks, from a distance, very much like growth. Perhaps the deeper truth is this: life is not a thing, but a spectrum. It begins with molecules forming patterns, rises into cells, blooms into forests and animals, and perhaps, at scales we are only beginning to glimpse, echoes in the fabric of the universe itself. So let the question linger, not as a riddle to be solved, but as a lullaby to rest with. What is life, anyway? A child growing taller, a seed waiting patiently for rain, a fire flickering in the dark, a galaxy spinning at the crossroads of filaments, fed by rivers of hydrogen, a web of stars and gas that endures for billions of years. The answer is not fixed. It is as open and evolving as the cosmos itself. And as you lie here, listening, perhaps the simplest truth is this: whether or not the universe is alive, you are. You're a thread of vitality woven into its fabric. You breathe, you feel, you wonder. And in your wondering, the universe becomes a little more alive, if only through the lens of your awareness. If you've ever stood on a windy shore and watched a flock of starlings twist through the sky, you know what emergence feels like. Thousands of birds move as one, swirling and folding, creating shapes that seem choreographed. Yet no single bird directs the dance. Each one follows simple rules. Stay close, don't collide, match your neighbour. From those rules, beauty emerges, patterns greater than the sum of their parts. This is what scientists call emergence, the appearance of new behaviours or properties when many simple units act together. It is a principle that seems to permeate both life and the cosmos. A single water droplet does not have a wave, but many together create rolling surf. A single ant does not have a colony, but many together build structures that resemble cities. A single neuron cannot think, but billions connected form thoughts, dreams and songs. Emergence blurs the line between simple and complex, between inanimate and alive. It suggests that when enough parts gather, something new can appear, something no single part contains. When we ask whether the cosmic web might be alive, emergence becomes a gentle bridge. The web is built from matter and gravity, simple ingredients. But when woven together, they create a structure that behaves in ways no individual galaxy could. Imagine standing at the edge of a murmuration of starlings. The air is filled with soft wings, the sound like cloth rustling in wind. The flock stretches and contracts, shifts direction in an instant, as though guided by invisible thought. You know each bird is simply following instinct, but your eyes insist on seeing a single, larger organism. The cosmic web may be like that. Filaments of galaxies behaving not as isolated pieces, but as a unified system. Emergent behaviour is all around us. Watch a school of fish, and you'll see glittering bodies weaving in harmony, darting left or right in perfect synchrony. Watch fireflies in a meadow as night deepens, each flashing at random until suddenly they begin to blink in unison, lighting the field with a collective rhythm. Patterns form from many, greater than anyone. The cosmic web is, in a sense, the largest emergent pattern we know. From the chaos of the Big Bang, matter began to clump, then stretch, then weave. Galaxies formed where filaments crossed, clusters grew from galaxies, and superclusters from clusters. At every scale, new structures appeared, none of which could be predicted by looking at the parts alone. Out of randomness came pattern, out of scattering came order. And what is life if not emergence? The molecules in your body are not alive by themselves. A strand of DNA is only chemistry. A protein is only folded atoms. But gathered into a cell, these molecules begin to behave in ways that feel alive. Multiply cells into tissues, tissues into organs, and eventually you have a body that breathes, moves, and wonders about its place in the universe. Life itself is emergent. Perhaps, then, it is not so strange to wonder whether the universe itself could be seen as alive, if only through the lens of emergence. It may not breathe or think as we do, but it organizes, flows, and sustains itself in ways that feel lifelike. Just as a murmuration is more than birds, just as a brain is more than neurons, perhaps the cosmic web is more than galaxies. There is a quiet humility in this thought. It reminds us that life does not need to be planned from above. Order can arise from the bottom up, from simple parts following simple rules. It is not command that creates beauty, but connection. The flock needs no leader. The wave needs no architect. The cosmic web needs no overseer. The pattern emerges because matter follows gravity, because particles respond to one another, because connection breeds form. Emergence also invites us to see our own lives differently. Your thoughts are emergent. They arise from the buzzing of neurons, from the firing of synapses, from countless tiny events that alone mean nothing but together form the tapestry of mind. Your communities are emergent too. People gathering, working, speaking, creating patterns of culture, of art, of history that no one individual could author alone. You yourself are both part and whole, both an individual and an emergent pattern. So as you imagine the cosmic web stretching across billions of light years, think of it not only as a structure, but as an emergent dance. Galaxies flowing along filaments, gas moving through rivers, voids expanding, clusters colliding, together forming a behaviour larger than the parts. Perhaps not consciousness, but a kind of presence, a behaviour that only becomes visible when you step back far enough to see the whole. Let the image soften into your mind, a murmuration of starlings, wheeling in the twilight sky, a school of fish glittering beneath the surface of the sea. fireflies blinking together in a meadow. Each is an emergent pattern, each greater than the sum of its parts. And above them all, across the black canvas of the universe, the cosmic web glows in filaments and knots, the grandest murmuration of all. Whether we call it alive or not may matter less than the feeling it stirs, the recognition that connection creates beauty, that out of simplicity comes depth, that the universe itself is capable of emergence on scales too vast to fully grasp. If you have ever watched frost spread across a window on a cold morning, you have witnessed self-organization. The glass begins clear, then tiny white crystals appear, branching outward, splitting and recombining until the surface blooms with intricate patterns. No hand guides it, no artist designs it. The frost organizes itself, following simple rules of temperature and chemistry, creating beauty from randomness. The universe, too, is a master of self-organization. In the beginning, matter was almost evenly spread, a mist of particles expanding outward. There were no galaxies, no stars, no clusters. Yet within that mist were tiny variations, slightly denser spots, slightly thinner regions. Gravity leaned gently on those variations, pulling the dense parts together. Over time, the clumps grew, filaments stretched, voids widened, and the cosmic web took shape. From near uniformity came pattern, from chaos came order. It is tempting to think of the universe as a grand machine wound up by some invisible hand, ticking along according to design. But self-organization reminds us that order can arise naturally without an overseer. Patterns do not always need architects. Snowflakes, sand dunes, and frost on windows all prove this. The cosmic web is another proof, written across billions of light years. Think of a beach after a strong wind. Sand gathers in ripples, ridges forming parallel lines that run for meters. No one carved them. Each grain of sand is only following the push of air, bouncing, colliding, settling. Yet together they make a pattern. The cosmic web's filaments are like those ripples, grains of matter guided by gravity, arranging themselves into stripes that span the cosmos. Or think of a whirlpool forming in a river. Water flows randomly at first, then organizes into a spiral, pulling leaves and twigs into its spin. The spiral is not alive, not conscious, yet it holds shape and persists for as long as conditions allow. Galaxies swirl in their own spirals, born of the same principle, order emerging from flow. Self-organization does not mean permanence. Frost melts, sand dunes shift, whirlpools dissolve when the current changes. The cosmic web itself will not last forever. Over billions of years, filaments may thin as galaxies drift apart, stars burn out, and expansion stretches the threads beyond recognition. Yet in its season, the web is real, intricate, and astonishing. Like a frost pattern that appears overnight and vanishes by noon, the web is both temporary and magnificent. And here lies the dreamy question: is this lifelike? Life, after all, is also a form of self-organization. Cells organize molecules, bodies organize cells, ecosystems organize bodies. None of these need an architect looking over them. Each follows simple rules, and from the repetition of those rules, complexity blooms. If frost can paint windows and rivers can carve valleys, perhaps the universe itself can weave webs without needing intent. And if that is so, perhaps life and cosmos are not opposites, but parts of the same spectrum of self-organizing patterns. Picture again the frost on glass. Each branch is unique, but together they form a coherent design. Picture galaxies in the cosmic web, each one a city of stars, yet all aligned along filaments, all part of a larger whole. The resemblance is uncanny, a reminder that beauty does not require purpose to exist. It only requires the quiet persistence of simple laws repeated across time. There is something deeply comforting in this thought. It tells us that order is not rare, not fragile. not confined to small corners like Earth. It is woven into the fabric of reality. Give the universe enough time, and patterns will emerge. Give matter and gravity space to play, and filaments will weave themselves. The cosmic web is not an accident, but a natural unfolding, as natural as waves rolling onto a shore. Perhaps that is why gazing at the night sky feels restful. Somewhere, deep inside, we recognize the patterns. We see not only stars, but the promise of order, the reassurance that even in vastness, the universe shapes itself into meaning. Just as your body organizes cells into breath and heartbeat, the cosmos organizes galaxies into threads and knots. Both are self-sustaining, both fleeting, both wondrous. And so, when we ask if the universe is alive, self-organization offers one possible answer. Maybe aliveness is not only about DNA or metabolism. Maybe it is about the tendency of matter to gather into form, to resist chaos, to create order again and again. By that measure, the cosmic web is alive with possibility, alive with pattern, alive in the same way frost is alive as it blooms across a window. Not alive as we are, but alive enough to remind us that life itself may simply be the universe's most intricate expression of a universal habit. Let this image linger. Frost spreading silently across glass, sand dunes rippling under wind, galaxies threading themselves across darkness. No planner, no blueprint, just the patient repetition of simple rules, weaving beauty out of emptiness. The universe organizes itself, and in its self-organization, we find echoes of life, and perhaps that echoes enough. It is easy to feel small beneath the night sky. The stars stretch overhead, countless and unreachable, and we are here on a single planet, circling an ordinary star in an ordinary galaxy. When we hear of the cosmic web, filaments hundreds of millions of light-years long, superclusters spanning vast regions of space, it can deepen that sense of smallness, and yet seen another way, it can also bring comfort. For even in its immensity, the web gives us an address. It tells us where we belong. The Milky Way, our home galaxy, is not adrift in chaos. It lies along one of the filaments, a thread of the Laniakea supercluster. Think of a city, wide and sprawling, with districts, neighbourhoods and side streets. You live in one house on a quiet street, yet that house is part of a block, the block part of a district, the district part of the entire city. Your address might seem tiny, but it places you within a larger whole. In the same way, Earth has a cosmic address, not only planet Earth, not only the Milky Way, but a house tucked on a side street of Laniakea. Imagine looking at a map of your own town. Streets and alleys crisscross, highways stretch outward, intersections pulse with traffic. Each street feels small on its own, but together they form a living city. The cosmic web is that kind of map, only the streets are filaments of galaxies, the intersections are clusters, and the highways stretch for hundreds of millions of light years. To know we live on one of those streets is to know we're not outside the pattern, but inside it, woven into the same fabric that holds the rest. There is a quiet beauty in realizing this. We are not perched on the edge of the universe staring in. We are embedded within it, part of its design. The same filaments that carry hydrogen to galaxies also cradle the Milky Way. The same knots of galaxies that light up the web also hold our neighbours, Andromeda, Virgo, Coma. The same voids that give shape to the tapestry also border our thread. We are participants, not spectators. Think of sitting in a house at night, a lamp glowing in your window. Across the street, other houses glow too. You cannot see every room inside them, but you know they are inhabited, connected by the same street you live on. Beyond those, whole districts stretch into the distance, alive with their own rhythms. The cosmic web is a cosmic neighbourhood, and we are one household among many, our light one glow among countless others. It is natural to wonder what such an address means. Does it change anything about who we are? Perhaps not in daily life. The mailman will not deliver letters to Earth, Milky Way, Laniakea. But it can change how we feel inside. It can soften the edges of isolation. Instead of drifting in an indifferent void, we are nestled in a structure of connection. Instead of being alone, we are part of a neighbourhood, a cluster, a web. Astronomers sometimes describe the Milky Way's placement with quiet pride. We are in a filament, not a void. We're close enough to see other galaxies, close enough to study the clusters, close enough to map the web. If we had been born into a galaxy deep within a void, our sky would be emptier, our sense of cosmos smaller. Perhaps we would never have guessed the web existed at all. Instead, we were given a front row seat to the structure of the universe, perched in a place where the threads are visible, if only faintly. And so, our place in the web is not just a location, it is a perspective. It shapes what we can see, what we can imagine, what we can dream about the universe. From here, we can look outward and notice the filaments stretching, the knots glowing, the voids yawning. From here, we can imagine the pattern as a whole, even if we can only map a fraction of it. There is humility in this address, but also belonging. You're a resident of Earth, yes, but also of the Milky Way, and also of Laniakea. You're a citizen of a supercluster, even if that citizenship carries no passport. You're a thread in a vast fabric, resting within its weave. Pause with that thought. Let it settle like a blanket around you. You are not separate from the cosmic web. You're inside it, part of it, cradled by its filaments. Your life may feel small against its immensity, but small does not mean alone. Small means connected. Your house on its quiet street, your galaxy on its filament, your being within the weave of the cosmos. So the next time you look at the night sky, imagine it not as scattered stars, but as the glowing lamps of a vast city. Imagine the Milky Way as your street, Laniakea as your district, the cosmic web as your country, and imagine yourself as one of its countless residents, resting quietly tonight in a home that is not only Earth, but the immeasurable heaven of the web itself. When we think of the universe, it is easy to imagine it as something fixed, a backdrop against which the drama of stars and planets unfolds. But the cosmic web itself is not a static stage. It changes, slowly but surely, across billions of years. Its filaments stretch and thin, its knots shift, its galaxies burn bright and then dim. The web, like a living forest, is an ecosystem in motion. Picture a stand of ancient trees. When they are young, their branches grow thick with leaves, their trunks dense with sap and strength. As centuries pass, the forest changes. Some trees fall, others rise in their place. The canopy shifts, the undergrowth transforms. The forest is never the same from one generation to the next, yet it is still the forest. The cosmic web is like that, dynamic, changing, but continuous. At its beginning, the web was denser. Galaxies were closer together, their filaments more richly fed by streams of hydrogen gas. Star formation blazed at a furious pace. The universe was young, energetic, bustling. It was a season of growth, like spring in a meadow, when green shoots erupt all at once. Now, billions of years later, that pace has slowed. The filaments are stretching as the universe expands, their rivers of gas thinning. Galaxies still form stars, but not as many as before. It is as though summer has passed and autumn has arrived. The trees still stand, the leaves still turn toward the sun, but the forest is quieter, more measured. The cosmic web, too, is entering a calmer season. Imagine a candle burning. At first, the flame leaps bright, consuming wax eagerly. Over time, it steadies, still glowing but softer, its fuel gradually diminishing. Galaxies are like that candle. In their youth, they burned with new stars forming constantly, brilliant with activity. Now, many are quieter, their fuel used up, their light gentler. The cosmic web reflects this shift, its overall brightness slowly dimming as galaxies age. But the web does not only fade, it also transforms. Galaxies collide and merge, weaving new shapes into the tapestry. Clusters grow heavier, their gravity pulling in stragglers, reshaping the filaments around them. Superclusters stretch like dough rising, their threads thinning as space expands. The web is alive with motion, even if that motion is too slow for human eyes to see. There is both sadness and beauty in this story. Sadness, because the universe we know is moving toward a quieter future. One day, far in the future, the rivers of hydrogen may run dry. Star formation may cease. Galaxies may fade into red embers, then into silence. The web will remain, but it will be thinner, quieter, a ghost of its former self. Beauty, because even in this slow decline, there is grace. The universe is not a frozen sculpture, but a living pattern with seasons, each one carrying its own dignity. Think again of a forest. In autumn, the leaves turn gold and crimson, then fall, leaving the trees bare. Yet the sight is not sorrowful but beautiful, a reminder of cycles, of change woven into life itself. The cosmic web too has its seasons. Spring has passed, summer too, and now autumn stretches before it. But autumn has its colours, its peace, its meaning. For us, this truth carries a quiet lesson. We often wish for permanence, for the comfort of things that do not change. Yet the universe reminds us that change is the rule, not the exception. Stars are born and die, galaxies grow and fade, filaments stretch and thin, and still the web endures. Change does not erase connection, it transforms it. Perhaps that is why the idea of an evolving universe feels so intimate. It mirrors our own lives. We too are born, grow and change. Our bodies carry more energy in youth, slow with age, transform over time. We too are part of a web that evolves, both in our small lives and in the cosmos at large. The universe ages and so do we, each of us threads in the same fabric of time. Picture yourself walking through an old grove at dusk. The air is cool, the leaves rustle softly, and the trunks rise like pillars. You feel both the weight of age and the presence of continuity. Generations of life have passed here, yet the forest remains. That is the cosmic web, ancient, evolving, steady even as its seasons change. So when you look at the night sky, do not think of it as fixed, unchanging. Think of it as alive with time, a fabric slowly reshaping itself. The stars you see are moments in its story, brief flashes in a grander arc. The filaments are threads still stretching, the clusters still weaving. The web is not frozen. It is evolving, carrying us with it into the quiet seasons ahead. And as you rest tonight, let that thought bring peace. You're part of a universe that grows and changes, a forest that passes through seasons, a candle that burns both brightly and softly. Nothing is permanent, but everything belongs to the same unfolding. The cosmic web is evolving, and you are woven into its story. When you close your eyes and think, billions of neurons in your brain fire in quiet patterns. No single cell knows you exist. No single neuron is aware of the thought it helps create. Yet together, they form something greater. Your awareness, your sense of self, your ability to wonder about the universe. It is an emergent miracle, small parts combining to create something entirely new. Now step back. The cosmic web stretches across billions of light years, a network of galaxies linked by filaments of dark matter and gas. Each galaxy is a node, each filament a connection, and within at least one of those galaxies, our Milky Way, life has emerged. Cells combine to form bodies, bodies formed, communities, and from those communities came consciousness capable of looking outward. We are not only aware of ourselves, we are aware of the universe itself, which raises a softly unsettling, softly wondrous question. Are we the universe becoming aware of itself? It may sound grandiose, but consider how natural the idea is. In a brain, awareness arises from a web of cells. In a forest, balance arises from a web of roots and exchanges. In the universe, awareness may arise from webs of galaxies, not directly, but through the lives that bloom within them. We're not outside the cosmic web, peering in. We are part of it, a product of its flows, a temporary spark of reflection woven into its threads. Imagine fireflies in a summer meadow. At first, each blinks alone, scattered points of light in the dark. But gradually, some begin to sync. Flashes align, patterns emerge, until the meadow glows with a rhythm greater than the sum of its parts. Consciousness may be like that. Each of us is a single flicker, brief and fragile. But together we form patterns of thought, culture, memory, and meaning. Perhaps, across the galaxy, across the universe, countless sparks may one day align, giving rise to something larger, a glow of awareness spread across the cosmic web. For now, we know of only one place where such sparks burn: Earth. But even here, the connection feels profound. The atoms in your body were born in stars, carried through filaments, gathered into planets, and assembled into life. Your awareness is not separate from the cosmos. It is the cosmos, briefly shaped into thought. When you wonder about the universe is, in a very real sense, wondering about itself. This idea is not meant as an answer, but as a reflection, a dream to carry with you. Perhaps the web is simply a structure, lifeless and indifferent. Or perhaps it is a nursery for awareness, its filaments the veins that one day may carry thought across unimaginable distances. Either way, your existence proves that the cosmic web is capable of producing awareness, at least here, at least once. And that is already remarkable. Think again of neurons. Each one is small, almost insignificant. But when billions connect, something astonishing happens. Consciousness emerges. If galaxies are like neurons, perhaps the cosmic web is capable of a similar emergence. Not now, not in a way we can detect, but in principle. Awareness may not be confined to small scales. It may echo upward, across patterns larger than we dare imagine. Picture the Milky Way as one glowing neuron in a cosmic brain. Nearby galaxies are its neighbours, linked by filaments of dark matter. Farther away, other clusters shine, their light flickering across billions of years. The whole map begins to look less like emptiness and more like circuitry, less like isolation and more like a nervous system. Whether it thinks or not is beyond us, but the resemblance alone is enough to stir quiet awe. Even if the web does not think, even if it never becomes aware, we remain its witnesses. We are its storytellers, its mirrors. The universe has given rise to beings capable of naming it, mapping it, and marvelling at its beauty. In that sense, awareness has already emerged. The cosmic web does not need to think in order to have meaning. Its meaning lies in the fact that we can see it, describe it, and feel wonder in its presence. And so, the question, are we the universe becoming aware, does not demand an answer. It is enough to hold it gently like a thread of silk between your fingers. Maybe yes, maybe no, maybe something in between. The truth may be forever beyond us. But in the quiet of the night, as you breathe and drift towards sleep, the thought itself can be a comfort, that your awareness is not separate from the stars, but part of the same fabric, the same unfolding, the same web. You're not just in the universe, you are of it. The hydrogen in your breath once flowed through cosmic rivers. The iron in your blood was forged in ancient stars. The neurons firing in your brain echo the filaments of the web. When you wonder, the universe wanders through you. When you dream, perhaps the universe dreams too, if only for a fleeting moment, through the spark of your mind. So let the thought rest with you. You're a flicker of awareness in a cosmic network, a firefly in a meadow of galaxies, a neuron in the vastness of the web. Whether or not the whole universe is alive, you are, and that is enough to light the darkness. There are moments when perspective shifts so deeply that the world feels new again. To a child, the forest may seem like a collection of individual trees. Later, with time and reflection, the forest is seen as a living whole, roots intertwining, canopies mingling, creatures moving between trunks, air and water flowing through every leaf and stone. What once looked like scattered pieces reveals itself as a single breathing system. The cosmic web offers us a similar shift. For centuries, we thought of the universe as a backdrop, stars sprinkled on black velvet, a stage on which life and motion play out. But to glimpse the web is to realise the stage itself is alive with structure. It is not a scattering of points, but a woven pattern. Not emptiness, but lace. Not chaos, but connection. To see it this way is to feel the paradigm shift of wonder, an invitation to imagine the universe not as passive scenery, but as a dynamic, evolving fabric. Picture a forest again. You walk among trunks, hear bird song, smell the soil. It feels like a collection of parts. This tree, that bird, this patch of moss. Then, slowly, the whole comes into focus. You notice how the roots share water, how the canopy regulates sunlight, how the soil teems with hidden life. The forest is not just a group of things, it is one thing, a single system. In the same way, galaxies along filaments are not just dots. They are threads in a single tapestry, stitched by invisible matter sustained by flows of gas, balanced by spaces of silence. This shift does not provide answers so much as soften questions. It does not insist the universe is literally alive, but it invites us to see aliveness in its patterns. It reminds us that we're not looking at a cold machine, but at a system that organizes, flows, and evolves. Whether we call that life or not, it carries the flavor of vitality. Think of an orchestra. Each instrument plays its part, following its own rhythm and timbre. On their own, the notes may sound scattered, incomplete, but together they merge into music, a harmony greater than any single sound. The cosmic web is like that orchestra. Each galaxy is a note, each filament a phrase, each void a pause. Together they form a music too vast for us to hear in full, but one we can sense, faintly, when we trace its patterns. To adopt this perspective is to embrace humility. It tells us that we are not central, not the solitary focus of the cosmos, but part of a larger whole. Our galaxy is not the lone jewel of space, but one among thousands in our supercluster, which is itself one among countless others. This realization can make us feel small, but humility is not the same as insignificance. To be part of a larger pattern is not to be less, but to be connected. Imagine a thread in a tapestry. Alone, it is thin, fragile, easily broken. But woven into the fabric, it helps hold the whole together. Its strength comes not from isolation, but from connection. So too with us. We're not outside the universe. We're woven into it, threads in its immeasurable cloth. There is comfort here, and wonder too. Comfort, because it reassures us that we belong. Wonder, because the pattern is far larger and stranger than we can grasp. We may never map the entire web, never know all its threads and knots, yet to glimpse even part of it is enough to feel awe. Awe that the universe shapes itself into beauty without needing intention. Awe that from chaos, connection blooms. Awe that we, in our smallness, can see the pattern at all. Let this shift settle in you like a gentle breath. The universe is not a backdrop, not a cold emptiness dotted with sparks. It is a fabric, dynamic and alive with structure. You're not an outsider watching from afar. You're inside it, part of it, woven into its weave. To realize this is not to solve the riddle of the universe, but to open yourself to wonder. Wonder that is soft, steady, and nourishing. Wonder that humbles but does not diminish. Wonder that makes the night sky feel less lonely and more like home. And so, when you next look upward, imagine not scattered points, but threads. Not emptiness, but pattern. Imagine the orchestra tuning quietly into harmony. The forest breathing through its roots and leaves. The tapestry stretching beyond sight. Imagine yourself as part of it all, a thread shimmering faintly in the immeasurable fabric. This is the paradigm shift of wonder. To see the universe not as scenery, but as a living weave, dynamic and beautiful. Whether or not we call it alive, it invites us to live more deeply in connection with the stars above, with the earth beneath, with the quiet breath of existence itself. We began this journey with a question. What if the universe is not scattered, but woven? What if the galaxies are not lonely sparks, but threads in a larger tapestry? Along the way, we traced filaments of hydrogen flowing like rivers, saw knots of galaxies shining like cities, wandered through the quiet hollows of voids, and followed the parallels between forests, neurons, mycelium, and the cosmic weave itself. We asked softly whether such a structure might be alive, and now, at the end, we return to where we began, with the tapestry itself. Picture it once more. The night sky not as black emptiness, but as cloth stretched across immeasurable space. Threads glimmer faintly, nodes shimmer like beads, and the whole fabric hums with a beauty that requires no explanation. It simply is. Whether or not the web is alive, it feels alive when you see it this way, and perhaps that feeling is all we need. You are part of that tapestry, not apart from it, but within it. A thread woven among threads, a glimmer resting within the weave. The atoms in your body are ancient, carried along filaments long before Earth was born, fused in stars that burned and died, scattered in explosions, gathered again into you. You are a child of those rivers, a lantern in that city, a voice in that orchestra. The fabric holds you, even now, as you lie here and drift into rest. Think of lying beneath a quilt. You feel the weight, the warmth, the softness of being covered. Each patch is its own, but together they form something whole. The cosmic web is that quilt on a scale too vast for the mind to measure, and you are beneath it, wrapped in its threads. There is safety in that thought, and gentleness too. Or think of walking through a forest at dusk. The trunks rise like pillars, shadows deepen, and you hear the soft sounds of life settling for the night. You realize the forest is not just a scattering of trees, it is a community, a whole. And as you walk, you feel not separate from it, but part of it. The universe is the same, not scattered, not empty, but whole. You walk within it, you breathe within it, you belong to it. There is humility here, but also peace. You do not need to know all the answers. You do not need to solve whether the universe is truly alive or conscious or aware. The questions themselves are gifts. They invite wonder. They slow the mind. They soften the heart. To rest with them is to rest within the weave of the cosmos itself. Let your mind drift now on the imagery we have gathered. Rivers in the dark flowing silently, knots of light glowing at crossroads, quiet fields of emptiness giving form to fullness. Mycelium beneath the forest floor, neurons flickering in your mind, fireflies blinking in, rhythm across a meadow. All of them are echoes of the same truth. Connection is everywhere. You're not alone. You never have been. The web has held you from the beginning, long before you were born, and it will hold you long after. You're a thread in its fabric, small but integral, shimmering in your place. To rest tonight is to let yourself feel that connection, not as a thought, but as a gentle presence, quiet and steady as breath. And so, As your eyes grow heavier, let the cosmic web fade into a softer image, a tapestry stretched across the night, each thread a lullaby, each knot a lantern glowing faintly, each void a place of rest. Let yourself imagine sinking into that fabric, not falling but floating, carried by the same invisible forces that carry galaxies, that carry stars, that carry rivers of hydrogen across eternity. Whether you are still awake or already drifting between thought and dream, know that you are safe in the weave. The universe does not scatter you, it holds you. It does not leave you apart, it carries you as one of its countless threads. Sleep then, as a thread in the tapestry, as a lantern in the city, as a quiet glimmer in the immeasurable heaven of the web. Thank you for walking this journey tonight. Thank you for letting the questions linger, for letting the metaphors soften your thoughts, for letting wonder cradle you into rest. The cosmic web is vast, immeasurable, and still unfolding, but here, in this moment, it is enough simply to feel it, woven, patterned, alive with connection. And so, we have reached the end of tonight's exploration. Whether your eyes are still open, or you're already floating somewhere between waking and dreaming, thank you for being part of this little journey. If you would like to join me again for more gentle wanderings, you're always welcome to subscribe, or share this with someone who could use a peaceful pause. Time has a way of slipping through our fingers, but here, in this quiet moment, it is just you and the soft hush of rest. Sleep peacefully, wherever and whenever you may be.